All right, it's 4:36 according to Apple time. We do have a quorum. It is 4 of 6. Danny can fill in, so 5. Not here is Rachel Morris. Oh, she's on her way. Nicole and Tim Wood, who both notified us. Are there any additions or adjustments, Brian?
I was going to give a quick update on the high school water system.
Okay.
That won't take very long.
We'll just put that under other items.
Yep.
Next will be consent agenda. Approve the minutes of January 15th, 2025.
So moved.
Second. All right. All in favor? Opposed? And abstentions? Danny and Betsy abstained.
Thank you.
All right, before we get started, we have audience with the public. Nothing this time, Sarah?
No.
Guys good? Okay. Then we'll get right into the MVHS capital improvement presentation.
Good evening, everybody. Joining us today, we've got some faces that everybody's familiar with at this point. Carrie Worms from Energy Efficient Investments and Ann Ketterer from Novo Studios Architects. We've been continuing to plug away at trying to pinpoint exactly what the scope of work needs to be at the high school. We met yesterday and then again this morning, and there's been a lot of work going on between EEI and Novo Studios, and I think that they have come up with a really good scope of work, and looking forward to getting some feedback on it between now and then the full board later on this evening.
Yeah, great. So to give a quick update, since I know last time or a few times ago we presented, we kind of gave an overview of what we've been doing and where we were at, and part of that was a different lane of revolving renovation funds. We were trying to go after as much free money as we can between efficiency main and utilizing performance contracts, and then the revolving renovation funds to see what out of the large capital list can we get done and narrow it down. And we were lucky enough to actually be awarded almost $4 million from the state through our revolving renovation fund applications, which is awesome. And our water quantity application was actually the second highest rated application. So we're very excited to be able to utilize these funds to remove them from the high school ones, to remove from this project, because these two items were necessities in the overall project. We would have had to do them regardless of the scope as much as we narrowed down. So essentially we're now able to take a little bit of a deduction in our scope items due to these applications. And then we were also awarded union ventilation, which was great because we were awarded the full project of $2 million, and that was slated to be done under a phase 3 project for the remaining district ventilation and a few boilers. So being able to now get that done through state funds frees up some other work necessary items that we can look at or reduce the scope. The way that these funds work is there's a percentage of it that is forgiven. That's based on an economic percentage number from the district, and that is completely forgiven. And then the remaining of that is paid back at 0% over 10 years. So it's a much better financing mechanism. It's a better way to go about getting projects done. Now that we have these two, we were able to say, with the scope that we came up with, we deducted it, and where we now go in is kind of a summary of the project scope for the high school. I know I didn't want to go into too much detail since it was going to be a little bit of repetitive from the last 2 meetings to go over what we've included in the scope. So this is a summary of everything that we were looking at, with the bathroom renovations, locker rooms, the security vestibule / new front entrance remodel. The ducted ERV system is going to be for the ventilation throughout the building, removal of all of the unit ventilators, and going with a ducted energy recovery system. And then that would also have dehumidification in it for the building. A new sprinkler system, since we are touching a large percentage of the building, we have to do a sprinkler system. The science lab upgrades, asbestos abatement, which we now have that application for, ceiling tile replacements, building controls, and then reconfiguration of the art wing, admin, and special education areas. So this was everything that we have priced up to date to see where we are at and how can we narrow it down. With all of this priced up, we knew we were not going to be at exactly 20 million. We knew it was gonna be a higher number, and then we take a look at it and say, okay, what are the immediate needs? What do those scopes look like? What do the costs look like? Where can we either de-scope or remove scope to get to a project cost that is ideally under 25 million? That was our goal. So this is where all of the pricing came out to as far as percentages. So what makes up the entirety of this project? And you see there's a lot of framing and interior finishes. That is the ceiling tiles, that is the floors, the science lab finishes, bathroom finishes, locker room, anything that we're redoing on the interior. You see mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and then the general conditions miscellaneous. So we broke everything out, and then if you go to the next slide as well, this breaks out what those costs are and where we came up to. Well, everything priced up came to the 27,000, I wish it was 27,000, 27.8 million, and these are, everything included in this price is really, the focus of the project is to make the building reliable, do necessary improvements for a little bit of crisis management in some of the areas, and then also get the building to operational efficiency for the future, so that now we have a better baseline to build off of as we continue to move forward with the building. In a sense, it was, let's find the most practical, responsible investment for this building to get it to baseline. So from here, if you want to go to the next slide, where we had to narrow it down somewhere. So looking at what are the basic operational needs, we'll keep in the HVAC. What are some of the necessary improvements for security, life safety, and then for accessibility? We did a lighter renovation of the locker room and associated underground piping. That's gonna come from some of the showers, some of the plumbing fixtures, and doing a lighter renovation in that area. We'll be using LVT flooring instead of MCT, yeah, okay, I just wanna make sure I did that one right. And then we take a deduct for the asbestos and the water quantity grant. So we removed the portion of funds that the school was awarded, and we took those out of the project since our pricing had them included. And then removal of the library HVAC, that was one of the items that was not as high of a priority as everywhere else. And again, this is a conversational starter. This was our kind of narrowing down. It's certainly at this point now at a board discussion of, hey, are these the items that we want to remove from that overall scope that we saw? This is our recommended under $25 million scope. As you see, it's 24.9, and then that's also a question is, do we want to keep it at 24.9? Do we want to continue to de-scope? Let's now get, the group's thoughts on where we want to go. From here, this was a starting point for us based on everything that we've priced up and what we've seen coming back for numbers in scope.
Just as a quick reminder, our 3 project goals, the first one was health, safety, and wellness of the building. So that has to do with life safety and bringing the building up to code, dealing with hazardous materials, et cetera. The second goal was improving the educational environment for 21st century learning. And that, the building was built in the 60s, here we are, it's 2026. Let's make some changes for positive interaction for teachers and students and how students learn today. And then the last and final goal, which is possibly the most important, let's be respectful and mindful of the community's bottom line. So that's why when we looked at that 27 and change that Carrie presented a moment ago, we thought to ourselves, well, that's a really big ask for this community. If we go back and we look at the scope, as Carrie said, de-scoping, well, let's just look at the scope through the lens of our project goals of health and safety and wellness. And that's why we were able to go back in and say, well, as much as I want to build that locker room, I think it'd be fantastic. Do I think that we can achieve the same end, but maybe be more careful about the means and do a design that could save us a little money? Yeah, I do. So that's how we looked at these difficult decisions, because we would love to do everything for you, but we were team players, and we want to be careful of maintaining our project goals and the bottom line of this community.
Can I clarify something?
Yeah.
The 6 million that we were awarded was
For,
for,
Yep.
that was taken out already after the
2022.
before the 27.
no, so that was priced into it for us because we had already priced those up. We just received the award, Thursday, we found out. So we had already known asbestos and the water quantity were two of like the main issues even going into this project. So those were included in our 27.8, which is why we deducted them out.
Okay.
But also for clarity, of that 4 million, 2 million of it's for Union Elementary School, that has
Yes.
nothing to do with this project, and of that, we have to pay back, 42.75%.
Or like, yeah, that's forgiven, and then the
I'm sorry.
48% will be paid back as 0%, which will be a separate warrant article, to go out to say, do the taxpayers vote to accept this grant from the state with these parameters?
Okay,
So it's not totally free, but it's a
Right.
great,
right. No,
Couldn't be
I
better.
didn't realize some of it went to Union.
Yes,
0% money.
2 million of that went to Union,
Pretty near free.
yeah, it's really good, yep.
yeah.
Huge
Which is
help.
great, because a lot of schools, I think what contributed to the success for us this year is a lot of, 2 of these applications, we've submitted now 3 times to the state with no luck, so this will be their 3rd time. That helped. We partnered with Novo on them, so we had architects stamp, reports to back that up. We provided engineering reports for the union ventilation, but it was a hard year. Typically, the revolving renovation funds have 28 million. This year, it was 15 million, and I forget how many, I think there was like 125 applications total, and 15 million of that got funded, of which we received almost 4. And a lot of districts, even ones that we have worked with who had strong applications, didn't get funded, and they were on their 2nd or 3rd year of applications as well. So I think we had strong applications, but also it goes to show the need, that it was obvious the need of the building.
As far as the change in the locker room, I mean, I know you guys have just recently been discussing the de-scoping. Do you have an idea on what that would look like? As far as, because I mean, you've already given us the presentation on initial thoughts, but like a different design, what would that look like?
So, the designer showed you a month ago, that was saying, all right, let's take this area and let's wipe the slate clean and start again.
Right.
And we know we need more storage, we know we need offices, we need a bigger training room, we need some bathrooms, we need locker rooms, and then space for travel teams as well. And so that was like, okay, in a perfect scenario, what do locker rooms look like in the year 2026? The cost of that was so high that we felt it'd be responsible to go back and look again. And so I'm just now beginning that.
Okay.
These numbers are very fresh, but I'm happy to share my thoughts. What we'll do is we'll try to move less plumbing, because that's saw cutting the slab. But we also, at the same time, we have to make better use of the space that is there. For example, there are like 12 showers in the girls' locker room that are currently used as storage. Just people just shove stuff, equipment, etc. Well, we don't need to keep those showers. But maybe that's where storage goes instead of moving it to the other side. But we need to keep a couple of showers. And so it's working with more of the fabric of what's existing. We're still gonna need new ceilings, we're still gonna need new flooring, we're still gonna need new plumbing fixtures, we're still gonna do all the ADA upgrades that the law tells us we must, and we're still gonna do a new ventilation. So it's gonna feel like a new locker room, it's just not gonna be as laid out in the same organizational principles that I shared last time, if that makes sense.
Other question I had was, and I know this is never a fun question, but in that breakdown, I don't see anything for like cost overage or, I don't know, I work in construction.
Like a contingency.
A contingency.
Yeah.
If you open something
Is
up,
that
it's
in
never
this
going to
10?
be exactly what you think.
Yeah, so that's gonna be in general
Is it general?
conditions,
Okay.
is the contingency for the projects. And as we narrow it down, it'll be, and we know more of the final scope, that adjusts based on project percentage. And then it'll be associated, or yeah, the overall project, but then also the scope of the project. It
Okay.
varies based on the degree of difficulty, what we know. We do the mechanical design, so the contingency can be a little bit less on something that we're doing stamping as the PEs. Then, something we have to bring up the floor and we have no idea what's underneath.
Right.
So we'll see those breakouts.
Okay. Do you have anything you wanted to add on that?
No, I think that there's been a tremendous amount of work that's going on. The need is clearly here. Anybody who walks the school, you can see it, and again, a lot of work has been gone into this, and we are hitting, the important things. There's no fluff in this. We're getting to what needs to be done.
I mean, he was talking about need, I don't know, is there anything you would like to add, Linda? We are talking about the building you've been running for a while, so.
No, I mean, I guess I agree with Brian that I know that people work really hard to consider the things that we need, but also to consider the community that we live in, the community that I live in. And so it is very hard to strike that balance between exactly what is needed and what the cost is. And I'm very respectful of that. At the same time, we're making decisions for 15 and 30 years out. And I feel like if we don't take some action, then at some point, we're going to be looking at closing the high school and sending our kids to other high schools. And I think that has to be something that people are really aware of. I don't think we can not do anything at this point. Black smoke was pouring out of the chimney the other day, and we dealt with it quickly. It was a damper arm that, that was great, and it was dismissal, so I got the kids out 5 minutes early, which satisfied people who were concerned for kids' safety. And then I just quickly, for some strange reason, because I don't look at social media, I happened to look at social media about it, and just too quickly, it was easy to see the first 10 comments were basically about how the place is crap and has been for years. And that just hurts, and we need to find a way, and I appreciate the reduction here and the soft look on maybe the locker room, softer than we had thought, but we've got to do something. And I love the line, and I wish I knew the student who came up with it, but I love the line that a student actually said, which was, "I wish the building could look like the staff makes us feel."
Student council. I
Yes.
can't remember which one,
I
but
can't
it was
either,
the
but it
student
was at the
council.
student council meeting, yeah.
Melvin?
So, all this improvement is gonna bring us up so that the building structure and everything, we can meet accreditation.
Yeah, so we just started our self-reflection for accreditation on our next cycle. We have the next 2 years to work on that. The last pieces were all the pieces that are in here, the plumbing and
Well, if we can't get the
all
building
those
to
things.
accreditation,
Yes.
we can't worry about anything else.
Yeah, so.
The
it's-
building's gonna come,
The facility is definitely one whole arm of, there are 5 standards to accreditation, and the facility is one of them, which has held us back in this last cycle. Yeah.
Noah, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to, just continue to echo and agree with Linda's point that the student's voice spoke the loudest to me. And having met with a couple of the select boards, I have shared with the community that we are not asking for a handout, we're asking for a hand up. We're not adding a gym, we're not adding a fancy turf field, lights. I'd love those things for the kids, and I understand that we can only afford so much. And my message is, I think that this is the perfect balance of, it will get the building to a point where it's sustainable, and then the community can move forward and add as they see fit in the future. But it gets us out of this hole that we're in. And I am very concerned that if we don't, I had to cancel school the other day because water doesn't work. I'm concerned about you having to send your children to a different, there's two models. We either renovate the high school, fix things and get it to the point where we can maintain and sustain it for the next 30 years, or you have to have a conversation about whether or not you become a K-8 district, and then you choose to let your students have choice to other high schools. There's just a point where the building is going to fail, right? And I feel bad saying it, but if I'm not honest, then we'll never move forward. And so I hope that I've lived up to my promise to the folks that I've spoken to, that this is a hand up, not a handout. There's nothing fancy, there's no bells and whistles, the entryway will be safer, the student services organized parts of the building will be where they should be, which is front facing to the community. The teachers will have adequate classroom space, the labs will be safe with regard to propane and water, right? I really feel great about this. What I don't know and what I need help with from you and the community is how to sell this to everyone as it's a great deal for everybody. It's a fair deal for everybody. And so I need feedback and help to get that part done now, and I know that these ladies here will help us with presenting it and selling it to the community. But everyone has worked so hard to get this to come in, and we have had many, many discussions about where is the cut point that will feel right. And what it really boiled down to is that in my opinion, in the team's opinion, this deal is the deal. Going lower would be not enough, and going higher would ask too much of people. And so we really worked hard, but we need your feedback tonight. Do you agree with that? We may feel that way. I understand 24 million and 24.9 million is a lot of money. However, if we don't do it now, it will quickly be 40 million. So if the community doesn't act soon, the price continues to increase for construction, and I'm afraid that it's just going to get out of reach eventually.
I probably missed this. When is this scheduled, everybody, it gets approved? When will we do this work?
It would be a phased approach that would start this summer with the abatement and the water quantity, and then the construction would continue through summer of 27 and into 28, finishing ideally at the end of summer of 28, because a lot of this work will have to get done during the summers.
Sorry.
Anything we can do during the year, we obviously will, that's not disruptive, but most of this work is pretty disruptive.
Because we're not building an addition of any kind, we don't have any swing space. So
Yes.
it's very hard to conduct construction operations during the school year. So there'll be a series of summer slammers, technical term, summer slammer.
I think, Betsy, if I could, another piece that people have asked about is they've seen they have to draw up a conceptual map for the purpose of showing the community roughly what it would look like and to do the cost out. However, it's important to know that none of that is set in stone at this point. So I've had questions come from board members in the community and some staff members about the location of special ed all being in one area, and is that segregation, or is it, that'll all get worked out as we go through the process over the next 6 to 8 months. The point for now was to get a dollar amount that we felt that could get the job done and figure out whether or not we could get the job done within the existing space. So the criteria that we didn't talk about was don't knock down a wall. And I did ask to knock down a wall in the band room and expand the band room because I'm a music geek, and I got told no. So, because it immediately kicked the cost right up. So we've done the right thing to keep the shell of the building solid, right? And I just want to model for everyone, I didn't get everything I wanted in this. We're a community, we're going to live within our means, and that means every one of us gives up a little bit to get a lot for the kids. I really did want that band room fixed, right? I really did want.
We can attest to that, you did push.
I did nicely, I hope.
Yes.
I tried.
He shot his shot.
Yeah, I did.
Yep.
Noah Melvin has his hand up.
Melvin?
I think we need a figure of what it's gonna cost to tuition, the 385 or whatever amount of students that are at that high school per year. This is a 30-year, this is gonna set us up for 30 years. I don't think for 25 million, we can tuition them kids out for 30 years. But we need that figure, because if we're gonna sell it to taxpayers, they gotta realize this is a bargain. All they gotta do is see it's a bargain, and they're gonna go for it. And I know it's more work to figure that out, cause from what I understand, the state has their hand in it of what you can charge, what other schools can charge to tuition students here. And I don't know, I don't believe there's any schools in the area, all of them combined, that got room enough to put that amount of students in.
Well, Melvin, if
The
you paid,
buses and
yeah.
the transportation, there's, a lot of the
Yeah.
factors that would go into busing out. And you just lose the community pride.
And many of the employees of the high school live in the community.
Yeah.
Many of the teachers that I met with while I was doing the programming actually live in the community, went to the high school.
Great.
Yeah, it's the center of the community.
Yeah.
But it would be $12,500,000 at a minimum. That's $25,000 times 500 kids. So if you spend $25,000 a year, I recently did an estimate to send a student to another district. It was more than that, but there was special ed in there, but I'm using a ballpark.
Yeah,
At $25,000 a kid, it's $12,500,000
that's a year,
a year.
yeah. So it's a bargain. It's
It's
a
a
real
bargain.
bargain. Because in 2 years, you're tuition them out for 2 years, and after that, you're paying. Whereas we're only borrowing 25 million. So what I see is a bargain. I mean, nobody wants to spend 25 million, but we gotta do something, or we got nothing.
I think especially, and it's been mentioned a couple times, but, and I'm sure we're all kind of on the same page as far as recommending this to talk at the full board level, but, where we got placed on the school placement list, we were
Yeah.
stuck with this building for a minimum of 20 to 25 years. And there's just no way it can continue with the level of upkeep we've been putting into it. We're now just playing catch up from years of
Yeah.
neglect.
Of neglect.
And so it's time to catch that up to the point where it can then just be maintained. And we can keep track of it in a responsible way. But we have to do something so that we can live with this facility for 25 years. We can't not.
So when we go sell this to the community, would we have talking points that we all follow? I mean, I'm just saying as a board, it would be advantageous for all of us to have basic talking points, stick to the talking points, prioritize the talking points exactly, and one of the talking points is, we're not getting a new school.
Yeah.
We're not getting a new school. And so I'm just saying, when we get further along, I think that would be very beneficial for all of us to have some talking points that we all use.
Part of my job is to help you with community engagement,
Good.
and I've done this a lot. And one of the things we do in community engagement is we do establish not just the project goals, but the messaging. And the district, I'll work with the district to build a website, so there's FAQs and all the information. The intent of community engagement is to provide transparency and share information. Everybody in this room thinks about the schools and understands the problem. But the general population in this community doesn't think about it every day. And so we come up with ways, we find ways to share that information, and we do have talking points so that people can stay focused on the messaging. And I'm sorry, Linda, you were gonna say something.
No, that's okay. I didn't want to interrupt you either, but I did want to say that, I don't know if we want to consider it lucky or not, but the plan takes into account the fact of declining enrollment. We're actually lucky that we have declining enrollment, or the cost would be quite a bit more, because we're able to use space wisely, knowing that in 5 years, we're going to go down another probably 50 kids and maybe have 480. So therefore, we're able to use the existing footprint to meet this out in a way that isn't more expensive. So I think that one of the talking points needs to be that the plan takes into account the fact that we do have declining enrollment, and therefore we're not just asking to add this on here and add that on there and do this. We're in the existing footprint and we're making wise use of the space that we have.
I don't think it's overstepping to say that this design definitely takes into account future proofing as well, so.
Yeah, the plan was to really, and I think it actually stems back to, if we look at 3 years ago and go back, Whitford to the 80 million, and then really look at everything the district's done in the last 3 years to tackle off that 80 million in a responsible way. It's the same concept for this high school project, is everything was planned to be more of a responsible approach for the community, is how do we do the necessary practical upgrades and then plan for the future, just like we did 3 years ago with a reset, and it was chipping away at projects. Now it's the same thing. There were items, of course, that weren't put into this 25 million, but we know what they are, and there's essentially now a capital plan. So we can create a new baseline for that building that accomplishes these goals, knowing we actually have a plan going into the future of this building versus before, where there was no real capital plan for it to maintain it, or how do we make these improvements. We're resetting kind of the clock on this building to say now we start over the next 10 years, what needs to get done and what years should they be done at, and how do we do that. So it really does reset the building in a more practical way.
And I think a good example is, we talked about the auditorium needs new chairs. Well, we can't get the chairs reupholstered because they're too old. But that's not in this plan today because it's not safety, it didn't fit the criteria, but it needs to be on an immediate capital plan. The carpet in the auditorium is something to discuss replacing simultaneously, because when the chairs are out, it's cheaper to replace the carpet. So those are things that we discussed and we think we value, but they could be done in the budget over the next 5 to 10 years. We focused on, again, not a handout, a hand up. We focused on what we needed to get the hand up, to get the building and the district moving forward. I have a bigger hope that may be false, but I tend to be a really optimistic kind of go for the gold kind of person. And my message is, I think if the community does this for the high school, there's a possibility that your enrollments could improve at the lower levels. Because I think one of the things that deters families from moving to Madomic is the condition of your high school. I know it would be for me as a parent. If I had to pick between Oceanside, Camden, Madomic, I would probably move to Oceanside or Camden. Just because the building is so uncomfortable, right? And I hate that because I've never met a better teaching staff. I can't say it enough. You have the most amazing people working here, all the way from kindergarten to 12th grade. We have to support them with positive energy, and I'm saying this for the benefit of the community. All of you on the board know this. So Betsy, I think the talking points are practical, and a little bit back to that piece about the marbles on the triangle with the property values, the quality of the schools. We don't want the marbles to fall off. Kind of tipping this way, so I'm trying to, I think you've got some great talking points, and I hope the video will be ready soon, right?
Because I actually heard from him today, and he's gonna be sending me a draft soon, and I think what we're gonna end up doing is breaking it into a few small videos that we can use on different aspects.
Oh, great.
So one, they're gonna focus on different areas, because we just had so much content, and it was all great. It's hard to, you don't wanna give people a 5-minute video, so let's separate out categories and make smaller videos, 1 to 3 minutes, that really capture what the message is for each. Because nothing in this project, except for one area, which we even went back and forth on cutting, is sexy. It's plumbing, it's HVAC, it's flooring, it's asbestos, it's water. No, it's not visible, but the front entrance remodel and the security vestibule is something that's necessary, and it does, morale is important. And so when you come up to the high school and you do see a new entrance that looks nice, it's a very small aspect of this project that even as of today, we were going back and forth, and it was something that we did make sure it was put back in, because it's an important factor, and it is that visible piece of that front entrance. So you can feel at least proud of this project, because you don't get to see the ductwork every day.
Or the sprinkler system.
Maybe Brian does, and he can be
Or the
proud of that,
plumbing,
but he doesn't want to see it every day after this project, I guess.
Does anyone else have any questions on this? Okay.
But I so am I to come back with the cost of tuitioning out the students offset by the cost of running the high school? Is that? something everyone wants.
I think it would be a great selling point of a bond, you know, for 25 million. If we knew it's gonna cost $25 million to tuition them out for 2 years.
I agree, Melvin, I like that, I think they need to hear that.
Well, I think that would sell it, you know, before we didn't have it.
Right, they don't realize that they say, we'll close it then. They don't realize what follows the we'll close it then period. That's a lot more money over 30 years than you might realize.
Right,
And so I think that's a great figure to have.
Not to add more to your figure gathering, I'm sure you do the budget, but it would be a helpful piece of information.
Okay, see what I can do.
The next item was revolving renovation grant. Do you have anything more you wanted to add to that?
No, unless anybody's got any questions. But we've already done a lot of the preliminary work here for the union piece. You know, this kind of pretty much wraps union up.
Yeah, it does.
In large, for all intents and purposes, so, that's gonna be great to get that one taken care of. But if, without any questions on that, I can move on,
No.
talk a little bit about the water system at Medallion Valley High School, and where we stand on that.
Melvin, I see your
Well-
thumbs up there.
you know, for us to get 4 million out of 15 for this little district, I think Gary done a hell of a job.
Yeah.
Making them applications out to do that. You know, we've applied and applied, she's applied,
Yep.
everybody, but, you know, she gained a lot of experience, brought us ahead. Cause in my book, the way I learned math, you know, if you could get 4 million out of 15 out of the whole state of Maine, it was doing pretty good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, other districts are gonna be jealous.
I heard from some of them.
Esther, how are your other clients taking this?
Well, they know, and anytime it's come up, is the need in this district, and the applications really, each application for this program is so individual to that specific problem, that you can make an amazing application, but if the problem's just not as bad, and then also the consistency, I mean, Union, we didn't get it twice, so the fact that it's saying we need the money, if we could, we would. We've now submitted it again, I think that consistency helps, but then also every year in that application, what you do is update, we're tackling this as best as we can, here's all the things that we've done this last year, this is too high, we're continuing to improve the district, we just can't do it on our own. So this district, more so than some of the others, has over the past few years done a really good job of chipping away, which makes a good story. So that helps a lot.
Also, we have to give Brian a shout out. When I was hired, we started sort of in the fall. I started in the summertime, but then we really dove in the fall, and Carrie called me up and she's like, do you think you can do an existing conditions analysis due at the end of October? And I'm like, it's the end of September right now. You want me to do 105,000 square feet existing conditions analysis in 30 days?
Yes.
I'm like, all right, fine, sure. So I think I walked through the building like maybe 3 times with Brian. And some of the issues are really quite obvious. I mean, I think the flooring really jumps out. But then we went to the utility room and he was explaining to me about the water. And I'm like, what do you mean you run out of water? How does this work in the year 2026, the United States of America? And we looked at the system, he pointed it out, and there's diagrams, and you start to understand the problem. So I go back and I call Carrie, and I'm like, well, I'll be damned. But there's this other thing you can do. It's called other. Let's check the other. And
I
let's
was hesitant
apply
on
for
these
the
ones too,
water.
which is funny, yeah.
Because there's a problem here, and more is more is more. And thanks to Brian's stewardship of the school and sharing with me, and Carrie as well, the existing conditions, we were able kind of to formulate a bunch of applications, and as it turns out, we had like 6.
Yep.
I mean, because we also applied for a bunch of ADA. They don't take ADA nearly as seriously, so we didn't rank as high on those, but we tried. But yeah, so I'm just so thrilled that the state agrees with us, that we deserve this funds, that we do have a problem with our asbestos and a problem with our water, and I don't know anything about Union, but,
And yeah,
Awesome
all
that
the
you got
applications,
that,
the district got, you certainly deserve the applications and for the projects, but also just for the commitment to continuous projects. which I think is a good story to also get out to the community as we bring this out. It's a huge factor in it.
So take the money and run. Let's do it.
I think that's kind of a good segue into
Yeah,
water
so, the water system. It's not a big secret. The water system at Madoming Valley High School has been a challenge for a lot longer than the 6 years I've been here in the district. We have added equipment for water treatment that's required, but we were losing water. And we had a plan for this upcoming summer. One of the biggest problems we have is the boiler room. There's not enough room to put additional equipment and things that we need in order to do the treatment that we have in a larger storage container and the whole 9 yards. Back on Thursday, the 15th of January or something along that lines, we lost water entirely at the high school and made the decision on Friday that we were gonna have to cancel school. We were very fortunate to have a lot of smart people that were willing to dive in very quickly. Among those was Jeff Twitchell from Air and Water Quality. He's a union resident. He manages all of our water treatment systems. And he came right down and he was right down here Friday, and was fully engaged. Affordable well drilling out of Sabatis. There was a gentleman who basically worked with us all day on the phone on Friday and then ended up driving up Friday evening to do some preliminary testing. And then finally, Brendan Delano from Water Quality and Compliance. That's the company that does all of our water testing. After a lot of evaluation, we came to the conclusion that we had two problems. One, we got a well pump that was certainly aging out and wasn't performing at peak capacity, and we had a well that was going dry. This is where the conversation started to get kind of tough, because when you start talking about hydrofracking a well, which is forcing a whole lot of water down into the well, open up new veins, that makes water testing guys really nervous, because you never know when you open up those veins, what you're gonna get for stuff that all of a sudden contaminants and things like that. A lot of conversations went into it, and ultimately we made the decision that we were gonna do both. We were gonna replace the water pump, and we were gonna do the hydrofracking. We did both of those on Monday, whatever day that was, Martin Luther King Day. And immediately, we realized that we were dealing with a lot more water, that we were getting significantly more water out of the well than what we had thought. After fracking, there's all this water salt water that's down in the well that you've gotta get out, and so they run the well, and they're blowing it out of a 2-inch pipe just as fast as they can send it out into the parking lot. But even with that, we could see it. Well, once we finally got hooked into the system, we were going from about 9 gallons a minute up to around 45 gallons a minute, give or take. So we had the quantity, which was awesome. The next block to check was this enhanced testing requirements that the state puts upon us. Some of you may remember that I've spoken about our arsenic levels at the high school, and that we are bumping up against the threshold for arsenic, both on a monthly, and then there's also a quarterly average. Both of those are taken into account. There's a whole litany of tests we have, but we just recently got back our asbestos test, and we actually tested lower after the water fracking. We tested lower on arsenic than we've done probably in 18 or 24 months. So that's awesome. Lead was the other one. There are some other ones that we're still waiting on the tests, on the results to come back on. I talked to Brandon this morning. He had told us up front very early on, and that was another part of this discussion, was that we're gonna be off from the water. We won't be able to use the water for at least 3 weeks, probably, while this testing goes, and then the state does their piece and gets us approval to use domestic water for drinking and cooking and that sort of thing. I talked to Brandon today, We've got 2 tests that are still remaining, and then at that point, once those are back, the state will, then they will look at the thing and give us approval, theoretically. There's no reason that they wouldn't. But, you know, we were very lucky. A lot of smart people gave us a lot of great information that allowed us to make a decision. I'd be lying if I wasn't a little bit nervous there. When we were awaiting the arsenic concentration levels to come back.
I believe you told me it was a pipe dream when I said I was hoping.
Yeah, and so we had a Pee Wee wrestling tournament at the high school that is a yearly event. About 350 wrestlers. It's a pretty amazing event. If you've never gone to it, if you don't like crowds, I would highly recommend you don't go. I can go in for a little bit and then I'm out of there. But we, last year, the year before, the whole time that I've been here doing this, we lose water continuously during that event. And it's taking 10, 15 minutes for the system to catch up. And in the meantime, toilets can't be used, they're going over to the middle school. During that event, this past Saturday, we used about 5,600 gallons of water, which we have our normal daily average is about 25 or 2,600 gallons. Never lost water pressure. So that's a very promising. I guess what I'm saying is that's really promising. We'll still be able to do some upgrades, get a larger storage container this summer. Once we get the biomass boiler in, it'll give us more room to operate in the boiler room. Jeff Twitchell is not here with us from Air and Water Quality. He'll be here later on this evening for the full board meeting. But we will be doing some treatment. We'll be upgrading our treatment so that we're proofing our water for the future as well. So again, unless something pops up that completely unexpected, I'm pretty optimistic that we came out of this about as good as we could have, frankly, all things being equal. So I don't know if there's any questions on that, but.
I think no questions on a positive note is a good thing.
Absolutely.
Does anyone else have anything else they want to add? It is 5:23, we are adjourned.